Right, it's Andrew at Glastonbury Council Watch again. Today I'm kind of backtracking because we're now in November and I want to get a load of work done on the first few videos to bring us up to date on the actual town council meetings. So what do I have for you today? Well, we have footage of about 2.5 hours from September to bring you up to date. The last video we uploaded was the independently shot, handheld shot meeting from the committee meeting called Resilience at the beginning of that month, and I've already uploaded my commentary about that. We're going to try and cut these and make them a little shorter so you can digest them a bit easier. So what do we got from September? It wasn't as kind of exciting and interesting from any conspiratorial perspective. There's a lot of housekeeping. I'm referring you to that video. I'll put the link under this video so you'll have reference if you need to look at September's video. They were looking at crime statistics for the town, around 12 minutes, and they've done a lot of accounts and expenditures, and they spent a lot of time talking about the St Dunstan's project as well, which I kind of decided to leave out of my editing because it's a little bit long and it doesn't really follow thematically for some of the stuff that we're interested here. But if you do want to have a look at what they're talking about in terms of the extra funding that they need, that goes from 24 minutes up to the hour really. That there's a real long half-hour spell where they're going through that. For the sake of our interests, what comes in immediately after that kind of caught my eye anyway. So from about the 1 hour mark, I'm going to edit in the footage after this. They're talking about the Brue Catchment Consortium. So I'm going to leave you to have a look at that, but all I'm going to say here is it's an idea for different groups to get together to look at dredging really. Now it's worth mentioning here before we look at that there is some maintenance supposedly going on. I'd mentioned earlier in one of my videos that the Environment Agency was officially in charge of it, but to all practical intents and purposes wasn't doing any of it. I was with a group early in September looking at what people were actually doing to drain the Reens, because as you know from the last audio, we have a notion that there's either an engineered flooding going on or just lack of maintenance. They're kind of not doing anything with the dredging. So I thought that from that perspective, this little section interested me. So I'm going to let you have a watch of that, and then I'll maybe add in some thoughts after this. So let's see what that's about.
Happy to move on? Okay. Let us consider joining the Brue Catchment Consortium. You going to speak to that?
Yeah, thank you. Some of you will have remembered a gentleman called Bill Smart from Wedmore Parish Council who came and talked to us, and it was about Dredge the Brue. So that was the original thing. On 15th of August, myself, Councillor Cousins, Councillor Don Francesco went to Wedmore Parish Council and had a very interesting discussion about a whole load of things. And during that, there were representatives from Wedmore, Walkie Mere, St Cuthbert's Out Street, Glastonbury, Godney, and the idea was, okay, what can we do about sort of flooding, flood risk, all the rest of it? As that discussion unfolded, we realised that the Environment Agency is a statutory body, so they're responsible for water. They've got no money, and they've just been chopped another 40%. Thank you. The Somerset Rivers Authority apparently was established after the 2013-14 floods. They have the money. The internal drainage boards have the equipment, the expertise, the people, have done hydrological mapping, all of this sort of stuff. So this group that came together, we then sort of changed the name from sort of comments that had come to be the Brue Catchment Consortium. So a collection of different parishes, others can join. And the idea was to lobby or put pressure on certain directions at certain times. So during that meeting, we roughed out an idea of a letter that would go to the Rivers Authority to release money to the Internal Drainage Board and the Environment Agency to give whatever permissions or licences would be there. So this was just like put some money to the people who can do the work and not, because the others won't do the work or they can't do the work.
Good. I'll answer a question. So what are you asking for us tonight?
So Wedmore will lead on it initially, their chair, Jackie Farley, and that Glastonbury would join that Brue Catchment Consortium. And so there's a meeting on the 20th of the Rivers Authority, 20th September. And so if we agreed tonight to join, I would then just email Jackie and say, yeah, please add Glastonbury to the signatory for whatever that letter is. So that's the most important thing. So if we agree to that, then that we would agree representatives to that consortium. It won't meet regularly, but it will meet as and when. And Councillor Don Francesco and myself would like to be the representatives, if that suits people. So, yeah, it is interesting. They've also looked at things like where does the silt come from? Is the dredging the right thing? Land use practices. So it's much more complicated, but the feeling was that having a consortium of sort of parishes, others can join, you know, that would sort of be better than just saying, oh, the Environment Agency is responsible, it hasn't got any money. You know, so how can that sort of lobbying effect?
I've got a question from Councillor Cottle.
Yeah, I do have a question, and I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think you need to be careful what you're talking about with money and giving to the Drainage Board. I have my own reasons for that. John might understand my scepticism, because the EA are already asking for a rather large loan from the drainage boards, or they didn't ask, I believe it was actually volunteered, wasn't it, by a member, and they don't expect to see it returned, which I find quite worrying, to be quite truthful with you. And so I would be a little bit cautious about what you suggest and what you asked for concerning money.
So one,
they're wealthy.
Yeah.
They've got plenty of reserves.
Yeah. So one option would be that there would be specific projects put together for particular areas, and those are the things that would get the funding with whatever the necessary permits or licenses were from the EA. Because essentially the EA said we can't or we won't, or yeah.
So I'm not hearing any request for money tonight.
No. It's not about money. It's just, do we want to join and put our name on the...
Careful with
Councillor Napper, and then move to vote.
Thank you, Richard. As I recall, the funding comes from the Somerset Precept. The Precept was put up a percentage.
Correct, for the Rivers Authority, yeah.
For that purpose.
Yeah.
Everybody will be paying, presumably.
Yeah.
Councillor Smythe.
I'd like to propose that we join the Brue Catchment Consortium and thank Michael and Indra for doing the initial work, and therefore I propose that they carry on to represent Glastonbury on this consortium. That's my proposal.
Thank you.
So we have a motion. Are we happy to move to vote?
Steve, second.
Seconded by Councillor Henson. All those in favour?
Yeah.
All those against? All those abstaining? 3 abstentions. So carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, so the thing that caught my attention about that little time spent on the Brue Catchment Consortium is that there's certain fundamental things going on here which you may not catch if you're not watching closely enough outside of the context of this. So what Councillor White says is that the Environment Agency has no money, which is an interesting statement, and the Somerset Rivers Authority has money. So that those two things caught my attention. As you know from some of the previous footage we shot, there was some criticism that came toward the Environment Agency for the flooding in 2014. And what Councillor White makes clear in this clip is that the Somerset Rivers Authority was created after that flooding. I think he actually says that in that clip. So what does that mean? It means that whatever funding was in the public pot has now gone to the Somerset Rivers Authority. What agency, I mean practical agency, what use is the Environment Agency to the public at the moment is a worthwhile question to ask. And then somewhere in there, Councillor Napper pops up and says it's taxpayers' money, essentially, is what he's saying. So it's our money. Councillors are making decisions as to a small group, a cross-council group, or maybe independent groups, getting together to talk about the Brue catchment area. Now, for those outside of Glastonbury, the Brue is one of the main rivers in the town. All of this has been decided outside of our purview, it seems to me, even though it's our money. So, you could ask, what questions are there? What is the Brue Catchment Consortium? Who is involved in it? What are they looking at very specifically? And we know that he's organised a meeting from the 20th of September from that. So now we're in November. I'd love to know any more details on what the Brue Catchment Consortium is, and perhaps in the following videos I'll have a little bit more info on what that is exactly, because it interests us particularly, pertaining to the possible flooding through the winter that we may well incur. I said it was a fairly uneventful meeting from our perspective. What else caught my attention? So as we get into an hour and a half, they're talking about highway works. I was thinking about it because we've already got info from Colchester Council Watches that the great thing that they're selling now is cycle lanes, and it's no different here. So we have Serena talking about this. I think that's the correct councillor towards the end of the video, and I'm going to play that little clip now. Now they're talking initially about just pedestrian areas or whatever, and then she pops up, and because she's on the same subject, she says we need more cycle lanes. So that really interested me, because I'd already heard through one of Rachel at Colchester Council Watches videos that this is something that they want. Now, is it necessary? I mean, that's an open question. I'll leave you to decide on that, but I just think thematically it's kind of interesting that this pops up in the September video. So I'll just quickly cut to that and we'll see what she's talking about.
Very little things, but I know that one of the things we really need is a pedestrian crossing as you go over towards B&Q across the bypass. It's desperately needed there. There's so many people who are trying to get across to B&Q, to Tesco's and so on, who are not in cars or on bicycles or walking. Is this the sort of thing that could go into this, or it can?
Yeah, because it's in there.
Yes, pedestrian crossing, please. No. To go across towards B&Q and Tesco's from the housing estate. Yeah, and that's one, and the other one is a pedestrian crossing across the Wells Road from the bottom of the footpath that comes down from Windmill Hill Estate by the Wagon and Horses, because there's a bus stop there. And if you want to come down that footpath and get across the road to the bus stop, you need a good safe crossing. So pedestrian crossing there as well, please.
Any others?
Noted those.
Any others?
Oh, well, while I'm about it, I really want us to go for cycle lanes. The one that I would like most is a cycle lane along the Wells Road. We've now got the restricted parking, which means that actually the Wells Road is much more empty during the day because people park there of an evening. So it's quite feasible on the other side from the restricted parking for that to be a cycle lane. And that would make life so much easier for cyclists.
All right, so that's that. Make of it what you will. It was just something I wanted to add in. Okay, so really that's everything that I've got to kind of report on for that meeting. As I said, you know, it's just more kind of semi-apparent little agreements between a group called the Brue Catchment Consortium that interested me. But the plot thickens because October's meeting is a lot more controversial, and I want to get on to making some little segments on that because it's been kind of an interesting little roller coaster the last couple of months in Glastonbury. So I'll get on to that. If you've got any questions about the initial video, I'm giving you a link to the 2.5 hour town council meeting if you've got the patience to last it out. Otherwise you can make do with these small sections that I'm coming up with. We'll soon get on to October's meeting. So best of luck to everybody, and I'll see you soon.